My very first symptoms of COVID were I could not take my cold shower. So I normally do a cold shower first thing in the morning. I went in there and I was like, dude, I just can't do it. Like I was cold. I was so cold. I just could not do it. And then I do my breath work. Well, I'll just do it real quick. So we'll do 25 cycles of that. We did some great videos with Josh Trent and Aaron Alexander that I'll link below. Hyperventilation followed by retention. On my hold, I could only hold for 30 seconds. So that was a tip that I'm coming down with a cold. Again, I didn't think it was coronavirus. So morning routines, I think, are really helpful because they give you some direct biofeedback about how your recovery was. Like, are you eating enough energy? Are you resting enough for your exercise? All of that. Again, public health officials should be incorporating lifestyle and nutrition changes as part of our containment strategy. I'm fully convinced of this, having recovered just fine from this virus and having a very mild case. I'm living proof, as is my wife, as are my friends that got exposed, that nutrition matters. It should be part of our containment strategy. It's ironic that I got infected because I've been saying this since March. Well, it's a little embarrassing to admit, but I got exposed and infected with the virus. You know the virus I'm talking about. Here's my antibodies. I'll share them on the screen here. So in today's video, I want to share with you the timeline so that should you be exposed and experience similar symptoms, which were completely different from the common classical symptoms that the media talks about. I ended up losing my smell and taste, but it wasn't until long after my primary symptoms, which were muscle aches and fatigue and a little nasal congestion. So basically for 2 days, I'll go through the timeline, but I experienced that stuff, and it wasn't until like a week and a half, almost 10 days later, that I actually noticed, like, hey, I can't smell stuff. And I have a pretty good nose. It was on a hunting trip. I'll explain all the details. We're going to talk about the things that I did, where I got infected and exposed. Maybe we'll start with, because many of you know, I've been pretty critical of our public health officials. Our public health officials have kind of pretended that diet and lifestyle don't matter. They kind of, in the media, they kind of paint this picture that, you know what, everyone's equally likely to be severely infected. But the data clearly doesn't show that. That message, that vantage point is completely anti-scientific. The data clearly shows that if you have non-communicable diseases like diabetes, obesity, high blood pressure, if you have chronic inflammation, autoimmunity, or even cancer, well, all of those diseases, by the way, while some of them have a small genetic input, are largely created and manifested via poor diet and lifestyle choices, from circadian rhythm imbalances, poor food choices, environmental toxin exposure, lack of exercise, circadian rhythm disruption. So we have a lot of volitional control over how our body manifests health or disease. And I've been critical of the fact that we've missed this really important window of opportunity. This virus was declared a pandemic by the World Health Organization on the 27th of January. And not a single public health official, to my knowledge, has, put their foot in the sand and said, hey, look, this pandemic is really a syndemic of two epidemics coming together at the same time. We have the chronic disease epidemic of obesity, of type 2 diabetes, of chronic inflammation that is being baked into or canvassed over this pandemic of a transmissible respiratory virus. And if you look at the infection fatality ratio and the outcomes in the slums of India compared to people that live in the inner cities, in urban settings, the infectious fatality ratio, the number of deaths, there's a huge disparity. Well, why is that? Because the people that live in the slums, even though they don't take the safety precautions, they're not masking or distancing, they're not dying at the same rate as people that live in urban environments. Well, why aren't we asking these questions? Why aren't we investigating the resilience of that? And even data looking in Brazil, there's the Amazonian folks that are just outside of Sao Paulo, and the infectious fatality ratio is much lower. Why aren't we studying that? Why aren't we looking at what is creating resiliency? And so having this virus, being exposed, my wife being exposed and getting sick, we had super mild courses of illness. Everyone that we got, the people that we think got us infected, same thing, super mild. All of us eat well, eat healthy. We're not in the hospital. We're not in the ICU. We're not on a ventilator. We didn't require oxygen. You might say, well, Mike, that's an N of 6. Be like, well, these people, some of them that we got exposed to and got sick with, shall we say, are in their 50s. but they were virtually asymptomatic. Now, I want to pause. I don't want to sound insensitive. I don't want to say that, to victim blame and say, look, if you get really sick, then you're a jerk, or you suck, or you must have done something wrong. Look, what we're talking about is probability. In probability or statistics or in the real world, we know great people that have had bad things happen to them. It doesn't mean that they did something wrong or they're evil or they're screw-ups. Unfortunate things happen to really great people. Kobe Bryant comes to mind. There's only 11 helicopter crashes a year, and he was one of them. And some really wonderful other people with a lot of potential and were doing great things in the world died, unfortunately, on that helicopter last January. And so, look, if you know someone that got really sick, part of the things that we need to consider about is the potential blessing of this virus. I'm so blessed that I got it. So I now can experience this and hopefully share the message with other people that you need to double down on your diet, your lifestyle, your exercise, your mindset. I'm not going to buy into this COVID long hauler crap. I'm not going to buy into that. That thought, it's not even a part of my thought process. I don't believe in that. If I feel tired, I'm going to do 10 push-ups. If I feel tired, I'm going to go to bed earlier. I am not going to believe in that, even though the data shows that about 40% of people that got infected to the first SARS outbreak, which is from an immunopathological, mechanism of action very similar to SARS-CoV-2, they experienced some of this long hauler stuff. I'm not buying into that. I'm not going to believe in that. Your mind is so powerful. We know this from the field of psychoneuroimmunology, psychoneuroimmune endocrinology. So that's just where I sit. And lastly, before we get into my timeline, this pandemic is the ultimate blessing. We now have a reason to get healthy. Before, there was no reason to get healthy, right? If you were overweight, diabetic, you could get on insulin. If you were so overweight that you were causing all these, other health issues, you could get bariatric surgery. Like, there was literally no consequence. There was your doctor might say, well, you're at high risk for this or that, but there's always a medicine or a surgery or a something that could potentially cure you temporarily of your poor diet and lifestyle choices. But you know what? Now we have a real reason. And because look, you don't want to end up on a ventilator because most 89% of people that end up on a ventilator, at least per data that I read over the summer and fall coming out of New York and Columbia University and NYC, show that guess what? 89% of those people died, okay? So we have a reason. You do. Your uncle that won't listen to you. Your aunt that's still smoking and drinking soda and going to McDonald's. Now it's like, dude, aunt, uncle, father, brother, client, pay attention. This virus disproportionately kills people that don't take care of themselves, statistically speaking. That being said, there's a very small percentage of otherwise healthy people that do take care of themselves that have a disproportionate outcome. They are a statistical anomaly, just like Kobe Bryant is a statistical anomaly. So there's a minority of people, but the vast majority of people, at least 94 to 96% of people who die from this and have a really severe outcome, have other health issues that are most likely largely caused by their own diet and lifestyle choices. So with that out of the way, and the fact that I think this is a blessing for society if we choose to look at it that way. Now look, if your business has been shut down, if you lost a family member, that might be hard to hear. You might be calling me an ass or things like that. But I'm saying this if we choose to look at this through the positive vantage point. Okay, so let's just go through the timeline of how I think I got exposed and some of the symptoms so that should you be exposed or experience these similar symptoms, you can make good choices. On the 28th of November, I went to a dinner party. You might be thinking, what, Mike? We're in a pandemic. Look, I get it. I did the stay home, stay safe for 4 weeks, flatten the curve, all that. I participated in that. I'm a big believer, and the science shows this, that social connections are a big aspect of health. If you're socially isolated, if you don't have meaningful relationships, it's almost like from a health detriment standpoint, it's as bad as smoking, okay? So I still go to friends' houses. I still go to dinner parties. We had 3 other couples there. One of the couples had an ex-spouse or something that they have a child with who was confirmed positive, but they had done all the social distancing and all that. They got sick, so then we all got sick because we were in a small room. We were sharing a meal. We were talking, okay? So time of exposure appears to have a major impact on infectivity. I don't know if the media is doing a good job of that, but that's important. So 3 days after that, it was on, let me just look at my timeline, December 3rd. So got exposed on the 28th. On December 3rd, I woke up, and I'll share with you a text message from my videographer, Sam, who's filmed a lot of the great videos that we have on this channel. Thank you, Sam. I sent him a message, said, hey, I'm feeling a little like I'm coming down with something. We probably shouldn't film. We ended up filming the video that I'll put right here that we filmed about how I kicked what I thought was a common cold. I mean, literally. So I got it on that Wednesday was the day that I was feeling my crappiest, and then that next Monday I filmed this video right here. So you can see you can hear I'm a little congested, but as you can see me talk in this video, I'm not short of breath or anything like that. I was literally like 5 days after my worst symptom. And then I went on a hunting trip on the 8th. So I felt good enough to go on this hunting trip with Danny Vega. We went to Robert Sykes' ranch in Southwest Arkansas. We had a bunch of great people there. Anthony J, Brandon Scott, amazing guys, had a great time. And so far, those guys are asymptomatic, though Danny is starting to notice some muscle aches just now today on the 21st, okay? So, could it be COVID? I'm not sure. Brandon said he has some muscle aches as well. Now, to me, that seems like the timeline of could it have been me that infected them? I'm not really sure. On that trip, I couldn't smell very much. I started to notice like they could smell hogs, which was weird because we've had backyard pigs and I couldn't smell them. And I'm like, dude, I have a really good pig nose after having them and being with them twice a day and all that. Anyway, so that inspired me when I got back to do some testing, and I went and got my immunoglobulin antibodies tested, and I was shocked that I had COVID. Friends, the symptoms were completely different from what the media says. I had no upper respiratory tract symptoms, no shortness of breath. I had some fatigue, but that happens when you get a common cold. So I had some muscle aches, and then my wife, 3 days after I experienced my first symptoms, she started to experience them as well. She had a lot of low back pain, and she thought it was just musculoskeletal or the flu. And so, yeah, I think if you have migrating, muscle aches, it felt like I pulled my lat. Like I literally couldn't do my breath. Oh, here's the thing I want to share with you. My very first symptoms of COVID were I could not take my cold shower. So I normally do a cold shower first thing in the morning. I went in there, and I was like, dude, I just can't do it. Like I was cold. I was so cold. I just could not do it. And then I do my breath work. Well, I'll just do it real quick. So we'll do 25 cycles of that. We did some great videos with Josh Trent and Aaron Alexander that I'll link below. Hyperventilation followed by retention. On my hold, I could only hold for 30 seconds. So that was a tip that I'm coming down with a cold. Again, I didn't think it was coronavirus. So morning routines, I think, are really helpful because they give you some direct biofeedback about how your recovery was. Like, are you eating enough energy? Are you resting enough for your exercise? All of that. So there you have it. I mean, again, public health officials should be incorporating lifestyle and nutrition changes as part of our containment strategy. I'm fully convinced of this, having recovered just fine from this virus and having a very mild case. I'm living proof, as is my wife, as are my friends that got exposed, that nutrition matters. It should be part of our containment strategy. It's ironic that I got infected because I've been saying this since March, that nutrition matters, that diet and lifestyle matters. And at 38, as someone who, I'm in pretty good health, but I've made a lot of stupid choices in my life. To just have a mild course of illness and not even experience any upper respiratory tract symptoms, to me and all the other 6 people that we got infected, from and with and whatever, it's living proof. We're living proof that nutrition and lifestyle matter. That this should be part of the containment strategy. So, friends, hopefully you enjoyed this video. I'll put links to associated videos and some things. You can change your health. You can change your body's immune system tone. You can reduce your risk of having a severe outcome by changing what you do right now. So hopefully we can look at this with the glass as half full, right? We can focus on this as a blessing and help other people make the healthy lifestyle choices that they should be doing anyways so that they can live a disease-free life, but also not end up, reduce their risk of having long haul, COVID symptoms and things like that, and also prevent ending up in the hospital. I would love to know what you think about this virus, if you've experienced any symptoms, if you ended up getting it, if you have antibodies. And if you get antibodies, what's cool is you can work with your local teaching hospital. University of Washington is nearest to me, so I'm going to donate my antibodies because I want to be able to donate plasma so that they can use those antibodies for really sick people in a convalescent plasma type setting. So yeah, that's where we fit. To me, I think it's a blessing. I feel blessed that I got it, so that I've experienced this, and hopefully my story, you know, for what it's worth, might inspire other people to be like, dude, I need to get a sauna. You know, I need to sell my expensive car that I never drive anyway, and reallocate funds so I can invest it in my health. You know, that's what we've done in our household, right? We don't have fancy cars, we don't have fancy crap. I don't wear a fancy watch, but I have a nice sauna. We have water filters. Like we do things that optimize our health so that we can feel better and not have to worry about diseases and things like that. So I'm rambling now. Anyway, I appreciate you tuning all the way to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thanks for hitting that like button. Thanks for subscribing. Have a wonderful holiday season. Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah to you. And we'll catch you all soon. Bye now.